also see the rise of the Jewish, what's the D word I'm looking for? Not diffusion. What's the other D word that was big?
Diaspora.
Diaspora. That's starting to happen. The Jews are doing what? They're moving.
Diaspora was like a group of people that like move but they don't conform, right?
So they don't conform, they don't adopt anything new.
Okay.
They keep their own customs.
So
That's
like,
been a big debate today.
So like let's say like the Jews move from like the Middle East and they go to like Russia, they still keep like their ways.
Well, look at this. There's maintenance people here that have been here for 20 years I've been here and they still don't speak English. Is that okay? Is that their diaspora? They still practice their cultures and everything else. They don't change. So that's a good example of that. What do you call it's kind of an overall name for India when it comes to religion?
Hindu.
It starts with a V.
Vedish. Vedic.
And what's the big book? The Rig Veda is a big book there. You have all that. You also see development of what at that time?
What time period is this?
We're doing this period
BCE
too.
to 600 CE.
So what else develops?
So,
we have the Vedic religions, but we have something else developing too at the same time. That's going to play out, and you can use in almost everything.
I really hope that's not
Slavery?
frustrated because I failed.
Now, what is created at this time period is used through the rest of history. We just changed its name. We have it here in America, still to this day.
Calendar.
No. But I said right now it's money that does it, not race so much.
Social classes?
Okay.
Uh,
The caste system. That starts in this period. That starts in Hinduism. Now, if you think about that, can you use the caste system in like a contextual form, in a synthesis form?
Yeah.
Yeah. If you talk about social classes, if you have anything, you can always go back to the caste system, and that will work as well. We see the Buddha in this time period. We also see somebody else who converts to Buddhism in India, part of the Mauryan Empire.
Oh, wasn't it?
He's a guy you should know.
Ashoka.
Yes. Ashoka. I don't know if it was in your class or somebody else's. Our third period asked about people to know. There's not. I mean, we could have just page after page of names, but that's not going to do us much good. Ashoka is a name you should know. He shows up a lot. What he did. Who's the guy in China you should probably know? One guy. In China? From China.
For what period?
This is period. What? Confucius. Yeah. He's a guy you should know. And he's really big on what?
Was he really big on
He's
all
really big on
have
Confucius. Very good, Kevin.
God, that was a Camden answer. Wasn't he really big on the way your relationship with others?
That's the big one right there. I'm looking right here. Rituals and social relationships. And when I say rituals, he's talking about the government should do what? Does everybody have a role to play?
Yeah.
And they need to do that role correctly?
Yeah, so that one that he's talking about, that would be the ruler to subject, so they each have a role to play towards each other, they have a commitment to the other person.
Very good. Along with Confucianism in this time period, it's not considered a religion, but it's kind of a way of life. What would that be?
A philosophy?
You could call it a philosophy.
Oh, what's
You should just have an idea of this in this time period. This is big. It stays throughout China. It's even today. Sometimes they spell it with a T, sometimes they spell it with a
Taoism.
D.
Yeah.
Taoism. That's that balance between human and nature.
Mr. Riddell, that word religious is really helping me.
It is. Also in this time period, it's been around for a while. Well, I shouldn't say it has. No, it starts in this time period. What's the other big religion that starts in this time period? We haven't mentioned it yet.
Islam? It doesn't start.
No.
Huh? No. I mean,
Christianity?
the Buddha's there, but it pretty much, where does Buddhism really spread well?
No.
I'm trying to be mean to it. It pretty much stays in that area.
Yeah, it
Same with
doesn't really.
Hinduism. Does Hinduism really spread anywhere?
No.
No.
It's pretty much just India, isn't it? Judaism does move.
Christianity is
Christianity is the big one. This comes online right now. And how do they spread?
Was that by the Silk Road?
Okay. Missionaries and merchants. Sounds a lot like what other religion? Missionary and merchants.
Islam.
Islam. Very good. Who else would spread through missionaries and merchants?
Judaism?
No. Judaism, let's be honest, you know, I know Kevin, you're of the faith. Do you guys really go out to try to convert people?
I'm not Jewish.
I thought you were.
He's
No, I'm Catholic.
Oh, that's right, you're Catholic. Who's Jewish in your class? I thought somebody was Jewish.
In our class?
No, me is Catholic. She says it a lot.
Not
Isabel,
Catholic.
is there anybody Jewish in your class? I thought somebody was. I'm sorry, Kevin, I apologize.
No.
That was really good.
I thought
sure
somebody was
there is.
Jewish.
I know Ali Robinson is Jewish, but she's also Christian. I don't know how that
Oh,
works.
so you're Catholic.
Wait, which Christian?
Catholicism spreads out missionaries, don't they?
Yeah. Yeah, I guess so.
Well, no, you're really not that big on missionaries.
No.
But the Jewish faith is not either. They don't actively go seek members. If you want to be
Christianity is
Jewish,
like the
you're free
only-
to become. They're not going to turn you away. But like Christianity was actively seeking members.
Yeah, like, that's
Islam
a really
is
big
actively
one.
seeking members. Buddhism, when it moved, was it actively seeking or was it just informing you?
Informing.
It was informing you. God, I who's Jewish. I could have swore somebody was Jewish when we were talking about it. I could have swore it was you, Kevin. I'm sorry.
I thought you were Jewish.
It could have been, who's this right there?
Right here?
Yeah.
Christian.
Christian is
Christian.
not Jewish.
Who was I thinking of? I know there's someone in our class that was Jewish.
I don't think there's
I don't
anybody
know.
in your class
No
that's
one in our
Jewish.
class that's Jewish.
Somebody in one of the classes is Jewish because we've talked about it.
It might be, Zach.
Cortez?
Yeah.
I don't
No.
think he's Jewish either.
No, he's a big Notre Dame fan. I think he's Catholic.
Oh, Catholic, yeah.
He's huge on
Oh, yeah, I've met his
Alan?
dad, too. No.
I don't know. Well, I
Who?
can see Alan.
Alan.
I feel like he's not.
that. No, he's not
No.
Jewish. He may be like non-denominational.
Yeah.
Anyway, well, I'll find out.
Well, we'll figure it out. It's good.
We also see a couple of last things in this time period to be looking at when you talk about cultural traditions and that stuff, is that whole Greco-Roman philosophy. Who would that be? There's a couple guys you should know.
Constantine.
Now, think philosophy now. Socrates.
His
And
student.
who taught?
Aristotle.
Who taught?
Plato.
Plato, who
Oh.
taught?
Aristotle.
There's one last, that's big.
It's like
Isabel, do you know? Socrates, Aristotle, Plato, this guy.
that
This
poor
guy
nice
was big. This guy is huge. Who? Alexander the Great. Okay. And the one thing to think about this is what is big in that type of philosophy. There's a couple of things, some key words to know.
Wait, what
Well,
are
that's
we?
more scientific.
What
Think of
were-
philosophy.
What were we
And it's
relating
gonna
him
kind of,
to?
huh?
What were we relating him to?
This whole Greco-Roman philosophy that ideas are spreading, kind of like religion is spreading as well, developing these things. I'm going to use it to kind of combat religion. I'm going to see it more later on. When we get into the scientific revolution, we're really going to harken back to these things. One of them starts with an L.
Learning.
Think of this, if I go, if A, then B, then I have C.
Logic.
Logic is huge. Do you see that in the scientific revolution?
Yeah.
People start thinking that way, and we're not so much reliant on what?
Guessing.
The church?
The church, not religion. You see how this ties in now? And it starts right here. And there's also a big part of the Greco-Roman things where they talk about political power. Plato is really big on government. He wrote a book called
Oh shoot, we had a DBQ on it.
starts with an R. America is one.
Republic.
Public, very good. Let me ask you this. In this time period, could you think of any art or architecture?
A thinker. No.
Okay. Could you tell a church from this time period if I showed you a picture?
Yeah.
Notre Dame's going to come later.
Sistine Chapel.
No, that comes more
Sistine
like
Chapel's going to be later.
That's the Renaissance.
Galileo will be later as well.
He's the he's the next time period.
All right, here also in this time period, we see some city-states and empires coming.
Like.
Such as the Persian empires are in this time period. The Han dynasty is in this time period. The Mauryan and Guptas are in this time period. Greek, Roman. What did you call Alexander's? He had a name.
The Great.
No, he had a name for all his culture.
Alexandrianism.
No, start with an H. Does that sound familiar?
Hellenistic.
Hellenistic. Very good, Kevin. What would be an area in Mesoamerica in this time period? I have two of them. One is really, really big, and one is a really, really long name.
It's not the Mayan, is it?
Mayans are one. Mayans are at this time period.
I feel like the other one starts with like a T or something.
It does start with a T.
Yeah.
Olmec.
Not the Tolmec, another T1.
How long is it?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 letters. Ends in an N.
It's the talent that I can't remember what it's called.
T-E-O,
I can like.
T-I,
I can like.
the Teotihuacan.
I
Does
could
that
like
sound familiar?
picture
Yeah.
it. I can't remember what it was.
So we have these city-states in all these areas, and there's a couple things that are going to happen that you should probably be thinking What is it?
Question.
Fall of Rome.
How do you spell the Teotihuacan thing?
Teotihuacan.
Yeah.
T-E-O.
T-I.
T-I-H-U-A-C-A-N.
Awesome. Thank you. What was your question?
There's a thing that's happening now. By having these city-states, I'm gonna get what? What do I need to have?
A strong government.
Government.
Which I'm gonna create with what? That's the word we've mentioned over and over and over again.
Money.
No, the B word.
Bureaucracy.
Bureaucracy. That develops in this time period. Because we're also gonna start seeing what now? In this time period? What are these empires gonna start to do?
Expand and trade.
Trade is gonna be one. Trade is clearly one of them. But I'm also starting to build. And if I'm building, I have to have what?
People.
People. So I've got to be able to administer those people. This is when we're talking about the Great Wall, the Grand Canal. What are we seeing in the Persian Empire being built? What was their form of church called? Their temple? Starts with the Z.
Ziggurat.
The ziggurat.
Ziggurat.
What were the Mayans building?
Sacrificial pyramids.
Were they building pyramids as well? So to build all these structures and do all these things created a need for a really strong central government. And some cities to think about. I mean, you know some of them already, so it's not like you gotta really do a whole lot with it. Athens is in this time period. Rome. Constantinople. And in this time period, what is the social structure like?
There's, like, for Rome.
Or just in general? I mean, you can kind of.
It's like the church and then like a ruler, right? Or is it flipped?
Well, no, flip for that.
Church isn't so big yet. Church
Yeah.
will become big.
So it's the rulers and then like the clergy people?
They
Are they
can
still
be.
not that high?
They're high, but I'm thinking.
There's like the leader, like the king, and then the court, and then like the merchants, and then the peasants.
You're starting to get that right there. That's where we're starting to head. You've got merchants, you've got artisans, slaves, things like that. So you guys start thinking of all these different kind of groups these are all starting to form at this time. But think of gender. Who's in charge?
Men.
All right, almost every society at this time is going to be what?
Patriarchal.
Patriarchal. Very good. Do we have slavery at this time?
No.
Not really.
You sure?
Well, we have serfs and servants.
There's
But-
slavery going on. It's not the African slavery now, it's just, because what's still going on? It's 600 to 600. That's this time period.
Prisoners of war that were slaves.
Mm.
If I go in and take over because my empire is expanding, I'm probably going to do what?
Take your people.
Take your people, and they're going to do what?
Either they're going to die or you're going to take them.
They're slaves, they're going to be building things. So we do have slavery. And we have rent, we have tribute, right? You saw that, that's part of that empire, as the empire is expanding. You know, we do have issues with, and if you think back, you should have that in your notes, why an empire collapses. Does that sound familiar? We gave several reasons.
They don't have a succession of a leader after one dies.
There's one.
Disease could be one. No.
Invasion.
Invasion.
Was this like the general one, or was this when we were talking about the Aztecs or something?
No, this was kind of just in
The
general.
Mayans.
I thought we were talking about China with that part.
Because, you know, we were talking about Mayans and their demise, and it was invasions, disease, and like people that wouldn't have like
Internal
successors.
conflicts.
Internal conflict. Now, there's some general reasons why an empire fails. One, it gets too big, so it can't do what?
It can't
just
govern
collapses under its own
everything.
weight. You know, I get so big I can't support it anymore. So I have that. Poor leadership, like Kevin said. A leader dies. Who's in charge? I don't know. Exactly. It fails. I also have invasion. A lot of these empires are going to fall. Why does Rome fall? Rome falls for pretty much two reasons.
Country splits.
Well, it's so big it can't support itself anymore. And then what happens up north?
Smaller tribes start invading.
And what are those tribes called?
Nomadic people.
There's another name for them besides nomadic. They kind of lump them into one spot, but they're not just one spot. But they
The
call them.
Vikings.
Vikings are involved. It's the Germanic tribes. Remember all the Goths?
Mm-hmm.
The Ostrogoths, the Visigoths.
Mary Keller, if you're on campus, please call Kate at the front office. Mary Keller, please call the front office. Thank you.
There's a group in India that's kind of attacking people. They have a name that we use later on again. It's the Huns. Like the white Huns that are attacking the Mauryans and the Guptas. And China's always having problems, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
Now in this time period, we're almost done with this time period. Some things to be thinking about. How are goods moved? What's the main one? There's
Caravans.
There's actually, I'm looking at it, in this time period to know, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 trade routes to know. And you'll have
Silk
everything
Road.
covered in this time period if you just mentioned one of these 4.
Silk Road.
Silk Road is one, done.
And
That's
then
huge in this time
there's
period.
the Sub-Saharan Africa one.
Not sub-Saharan,
Trans-Saharan.
trans-Saharan. There's 2. There's your 2 land ones. You can't go wrong talking about either one. But now you need 2 others that aren't on the land.
Indian Ocean trade.
That
And
was
then-
huge. That's developing at this time
Was
period.
it also the transoceanic one?
No, because we haven't really got there yet. Because we haven't. We're just everything's kind of staying local.
Colombian.
No,
No.
trade.
Colombia hasn't happened yet. That's not
Oh,
until
yeah.
1450. Where else could we be trading in the world on the water at this time period?
What about Oceania? Oh,
It's on this map.
Mediterranean.
Here's at Indian Ocean. What is it, Kevin?
Mediterranean.
Mediterranean. We know they're straight here, don't we?
Yeah.
So those are the 4 big trade routes in this time period. And if you know those 4, you'll be able to talk about anything. Now, we don't have what so much yet. In this trade route, how am I moving across here?
Caravans.
Caravan. What do you call the animals on the caravan?
Camels.
Something of duty.
Beasts of duty.
Beast
Beast
of
of burden.
Beast of burden is a
Yeah.
working animal.
Oh.
Okay. Are a pack animal, so I just load them up. All right. So think of water though. Do I have any of those new technologies yet? No, I don't have a compass. I don't have the new sails. I don't have any of that. What's the only knowledge I have on the water that's important to know?
Currents.
Something else.
The winds.
Monsoon winds.
The monsoon winds in this time period. Because I know if I point a boat in one direction, I don't have to do anything. If I wait 3 months later, what will happen?
I'll be in India.
The wind will blow the other way. I don't have to do anything. Okay. Let's see, we're just about done with this whole time period. Can you tell me, I've got right here 2 crops that are kind of moving through the Middle East and South Asia that are impactful? Just 2.
Rice.
Rice is 1. Very good.
Does it have to be a crop?
Doesn't have to be a food.
Silk?
Not silk.
Cotton.
What?
Cotton?
Cotton.
It has such a nice structure going. So like his little organizing lines and then what not to do when writing your essay. Some heroes.
All right, that's pretty much all I have for that period. You want to jump into the next one for a few minutes? Period 3.
Let's do it.
So I could stay for about another 20 minutes. You can probably get through period 3.
Here's what I found on the web for 20 minutes.
Okay. Touch the phone and then say 20 minutes. All right. One thing that's going to happen here is you see, let's go back, so now we're at 600 to 1450. So think of that time period. So forget everything else right now. Just think about this time period. Something huge is going to happen. Huge.
Crusades.
Islam.
Islam's going to start, which will lead to the Crusades. So we had to have something to lead to the Crusades. So write down Islam is formed, and they become very active. In fact, this map is huge. Look at where they're going. They're going everywhere, and they go quickly.
Did you include the Reconquista?
The Moors.
Possibly.
Position?
Possibly. But you definitely have to know that Islam is starting in this time period. And we also see the rise of certain cities that are only big because of
Trade.
trade. And there's a huge one in Africa. Starts with a T.
Oh.
It's just fun to
Timbuktu.
say. What?
Yeah.
Timbuktu. That's huge. What's one in India that's huge in this time period for trade? Starts with a C.
Calcutta.
Calcutta, very good. What's a big one in the Middle East that's going to be huge for a trade that starts with a B? Big city's in the news. It's been in the news forever. We went to war in this city. Baghdad. Becomes a huge trading. Kind of in the Indian Ocean, starts with an M. Maybe it's not.
Malaysia?
Malacca?
Okay.
Where's Malacca? Do you remember?
Malacca.
The Philippines area.
Is that where it
That
is?
is not where Malacca is.
Can I look this up? I'm gonna look
Yeah,
up
no,
where
go
Malacca
ahead.
is.
That's fine. No, trust me, we are free to look up anything and talk about
How do you
anything.
spell that?
Melaka. Malacca.
Calcutta, Baghdad, Timbuktu.
Timbuktu. What's down in the southern part of Africa? There's a
Cape.
language that's going to be moved. It starts with an S.
I feel like I spelled this
Sanskrit?
wrong.
The Swahili states.
How do you spell it? M-E-L-A-C-K?
No, just M-E-L-A-K-A. Malacca.
That's my one. Alright, there we go.
Where is it?
Malaysia.
Ah, he was correct. It is in the Philippines area. What's one in the Mediterranean that is super big with water? A city. Very popular.
Venice?
Venice.
Yeah.
Very good. And the only reason to know these cities is they're all based on trade. All right. Now, something else happens in this time period that's not on the map, but it's here in the Americas. And it's really big. And it's not necessarily trade, it's something else that's developed. If I say the Andes mountain range,
Mining.
not mining yet, but it's going to be based off, they'll have it, and they'll do this, and there'll be stuff
Dying.
dying.
Like
Dying off that?
Well, yeah,
like dying stuff.
Like with alpaca fur to like get.
Yeah.
So you
No, not that.
Dying cotton.
Well, he said Andes, so like.
Now, it's, besides trade, besides having a trade network, what else can I do with paths
Hunt?
and roads? It was big. What do you call the stick that had the ropes on it?
I don't know what stick you're talking
In
about.
South America.
Oh,
That was their language.
It was like with the little beads that went up.
That's how they spoke it.
The QP? Remember QUIPI? QP or something like that? QP? You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
You have no idea what I'm talking about.
They use knots, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a stick with knots and beads, that's how they
And then they'd,
communicated.
like, move it up and down, kind of like that.
And the idea was, they had like their version, how did we get letters across America at one point?
Ponies.
What'd you call it?
Pony Express.
The Pony Express, remember that? The horse they knew a horse could only run for like 20 miles, and then it got tired. And they would just take the bag, give it to somebody else, he'd ride 20 miles. That's why if you drive through the Midwest, there's literally a town almost every 20 miles. It kills you because you speed up, slow down, speed up, slow down. That was the Pony Express. The Incas did the same thing. They'd have people do what?
Running.
They'd run. They'd have a communication network. And we saw that throughout Mesoamerica and the Andes region. And it wasn't so much trade, but it was for ships. If I get a bigger ship, I can do what now?
So it's like the rise of the
Carry
Chinese junk ships.
The Dow ships. I also have what? I started seeing what developing along the Silk Road. It was like where I told you. It was on the test the other day.
Mhm.
The Fairbanks Ride.
Yep. Now, with the Silk Road, because this is going to be probably what? With the Silk Road, the 600 to 1450.
The high
This is
point.
the what of the Silk Road.
High point.
This is the high point because it's going to end, isn't it? By 1450, the Silk Road's over. Because now we're going to move everything by what?
Boat.
Boat. So who's making sure the Silk Road stays open?
Mongols.
Mongols will be big in this time period, making sure it stays open. Now, in this time period, remember it's 600 to 1450. At the end, we start to see what when it comes to trade. Let's say this is incredibly valuable.
A currency that's nationally recognized, like silver.
Okay, keep going.
Yeah.
No. I can give you what for this? What would
Well, you start to
give
see
me?
the rise of
Oh.
capitalism with Adam Smith, right?
Not that. Don't think that yet. We're not there yet. But what would Kevin give to me right now? If this was worth a lot of money,
They'd give you a lot of money.
he could, but does he have to actually give me the money, or could he give me something else?
IOU.
Paper money.
What's paper money becomes big at this time period exchange, but something else.
Architectism, so he'll give
No,
you something.
no, not yet. That's all next period. Everything you said is right, but it's the next period. So we have paper money, easier to move. So if I have paper money, I probably have to have what?
Like banks.
Banks start coming on near the end of this time period. All right. So if I have paper money and I can also have a bank, I can also write Kevin a what? Or he'll write me a what?
Loan.
Check.
A check. So you see things like that now. That's a form of,
Money, payment.
kind of like a form of credit,
Yeah.
that somebody will pay for this later. So Kevin doesn't have to travel with a huge ship of gold in order to buy something to come back, does he? He can come back and write a check, $500,000, boop, boom, I give them all the stuff, I go cash and check, I get all that gold and silver. Okay. We see that. Coins, paper money, we have all that. The Grand Canal is built in this time period.
Because we talked about that in the last time period.
It's kind of starting, but now it's being used to do what?
Trade.
For trade purposes.
Would you also put down still strong forms of centralized government?
Yep. Something happens up here for trade. It's only in that area. It's only in this time period.
It's the Helen thing with all the northern countries.
It is. It starts with an H, but it's not
Well-
Hellenistic. Something else. Do you know?
This means not hegemony.
It's not that. It's a league that's just involved with trade. Some states come together with trade.
Oh.
H-A-N.
Hanseatic League.
Very good. Hanseatic League. Very good. There's more trade. Camels.
So is this time period pretty much all about trade?
Not quite. I mean, some of the early stuff is clearly trade until we get more into the spread of Islam and some other stuff. There's a couple other things. Oh, we see there's a huge migration in this time period.
Bantus?
Moors.
Bantus. Very good. That is huge. We already talked about Islam. Oh, two guys going through this time period.
Marco Polo.
Marco Polo's one.
Ivan
not
Batuta.
Columbus. Huh?
Ivan Batuta.
Ivan Batuta. So you got a European and an African. Doing what? All done? Perfect. We'll figure out one more tomorrow and just keep going.
Were these explorers?
Are they explorers? Are they really trying to explore? Or are they more what?
Navigators?
Traders. Them.
They're really not even trading. They're just like travel writers.
Yeah.
They're going out and seeing what's there and sharing this knowledge. Some other things that happen in this time period. You see the spread of Hinduism and Buddhism in the Southeast Asia. You see kind of that Inca, Toltec influence in Mesoamerica. There's, we haven't mentioned him yet, but he's in this time period. This is going to be huge. It's going to start to spread. What are you reading?
Books?
How do we get the book? How did we make the book?
Oh, the
then?
printing press.
Printing press.
Gutenberg.
Yeah.
Alright, so we start seeing printing, and that's spreading, because now what else will be spreading?
Ideas.
Ideas are going to be spreading quite a bit with that. We see something else that's going to change everything. This is probably, I don't want to say it's the biggest invention, but it spreads, changes everything. And it's really going to start in the next time period. Because I can show up, and we had it on the board. It was in one of the short answer questions.
Horses?
Not horses. Think, what were the Native Americans fighting with?
Spears.
What do the Europeans have?
Guns.
Gunpowder.
Gunpowder starts moving in this time period. And we see the creation of those gunpowder empires.
Yeah, we don't talk about those.
Okay. We'll start talking about them because now we've got the gunpowder moving. Not everybody knows what to do with it yet. They have it, but they're like, okay, what do we do with it? And eventually, you'll see what they're going to do with it. Let's finish up with just a couple more things. You see a couple crops moving that really change everything. What's the big one in Africa that changes everything? Who's with the Bantus?
Bananas.
Bananas?
Yeah, I was gonna say that, but I was like, I feel like that's not right.
I have a banana, I need to eat it right now. We also see rice moving again, some new varieties of rice. Cotton, sugar, citrus move throughout where?
Americas.
Not Americas yet.
Europe.
Through this because of what? We haven't mentioned it yet, but it's still in this time period. It's one of the few positives that come out of this.
Columbian exchange.
No,
No.
Columbian Exchange is until 1450. It happens here, but goods get moved.
Oh,
because
the
of-
Suez Canal.
No, Suez Canal is until
Isn't
the
built
50s.
yet. No.
But I thought they had like that
No.
makeshift.
No.
There's at least 9 of them.
Oh, Crusades.
The Crusades. Right? There's going to be a lot of things moving through because of the Crusades. A lot of goods. We also have what in this time period? I already mentioned it once. Might as well mention it again.
Plague.
Plague. You know what's going to happen there. You see a couple new empires that are going to be big in this time period.
The Ottomans don't
Ottoman.
show up yet, do they?
No, who's before the Ottomans?
Byzantine.
Byzantines. They're going to be pretty much located where?
Constantinople.
It'd be right in here. Who are the Chinese ones that we should know in this time period?
Tang.
I have the Sui, Tang, and there's one more,
Song.
the Song. They're big in this time period. So you got the Byzantines, the Sui, the Tang, the Song. There's another one, we've already mentioned it, but you better know it. Huge.
Gupta.
Bantus. Now, India's just kind of taken over a little bit because of some of the Islamic
Mongols.
people coming in. Who?
Mongols.
Mongols. They are really, really big in this time period. And if you want to get down into the Americas, the biggest one at this time period probably will be the Aztecs. We talked about gunpowder. Ooh. This is big here. How can I get more food now? How do I get more food, Isabella? How do I get more food? What can I do?
Grow it.
What animal do I have? Oh, what's a common animal? You mentioned it. We saw it there. The horse. But what do I need to do? What can the horse do for me?
Plow things?
Pull, plow. But I have to create something so the horse can do it.
Tools.
There's a new invention that makes it really simple for the horse to becoming huge.
Saddle.
Collar.
There's a new horse collar that's invented in this time period that allows the horse to work better. So that's one. That's going to increase food because the horse can now do what?
Plow. On
You
farms.
can pull a heavier plow. You can plow longer, so it's more comfortable. In some parts of the world, they have a hill. What can they do to the hill to grow food?
Oh, just
Step system.
You know, dig it out. What do you call that?
Oh, terrace system.
There's the terrace system. Terrace, because now I can grow more food. There's also another one that starts with a C. Happens in the Americas.
Cultivation.
Oh, it is cultivation, but it's not. That's not the name.
Can we get a second letter?
CHINAMPA.
Zombo? What is that?
Oh, that was like they would build those ponds around in like Mesoamerica.
Keep going.
Oh,
grow
it's what.
stuff.
They would dredge it out and then use the soil elsewhere and have the water and everything else. Because sometimes, what does the Nile do?
floods.
floods.
It floods. When it floods, it brings rich nutrients with it. This Chimpana system was trying to recreate that. So they would go and dig up the bottom of these and put them out in other places and use that soil for their own benefit. All right, I think we're a little brain dead right now. It's been a lot. Let's see. What else do I need to know about this time period?
4 pages. Yay.
All right, here's the last thing in this time period. Let's say this. Then we're done. Women didn't really change much, did they?
No.
Not in this time period. We still have the same social structures we see. We see the MITA system, MIT''A, happening in the Americas.
Oh, wasn't that that was a type of labor system? We related it to the what is it? The encomiendo. When we
Very
talk
good.
about it in a very later period.
Very good. All right, we covered pretty much the first 3 periods today. Period 1 is just the Neolithic. You know that kind of stuff. Feel a little better?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And now the school's basically saying leave. We're going to turn off the air.